Yeah. So the first question that might be coming to your mind that we have lot of statistical softwares and most prominently we use IBM SPSS. Then why this Jamovi? Why there is a need to learn this new tool? See, the problem with IBM SPSS is that most often people don't have the licensed version of it. And now when you are using SPSS into your dissertation or research paper, sometimes it might be asked that uh, from where did you got access to IBM SPSS? Because IBM SPSS does not give individual licenses. They have launched individual licenses, but that's very costly, around $99 per user per month. That's not affordable. And most of the universities also don't have the subscription because it's a costly software. Whereas Zamovi, it's a free open source software. Most of the statistical computations and outputs are very robust, which you will see while we will be doing some analysis. And due to this open source, freely available, the ethics or the ethical considerations are taken care of. Second thing is that those who want to learn R coding, but they are not comfortable with the coding. I'd like to tell you that the Jamovi runs on the R codes itself. So whatever you do through clicks at the background, R code runs, and you can use these R codes if you want to report them into your work, be it your thesis, dissertation, or any project or research paper, or you can use those R codes, simply copy and paste them in R Studio, and change some data and other things, and you can use that codes also. So I'll show you where these codes are available. Before I move on to this software, Jamovi, first I would like you to introduce to you the basic concept of statistics. And the building block of the statistics is measurement and scaling. Is my screen visible? Is my screen
Participants, you
visible to
can
you people?
please speak up.
Yes, sir, it is
Yes,
visible.
sir.
Okay, fine. So the first
For
thing
me, it is
is, yeah. So the first thing, this is the building block of statistics, the measurement and the scaling. Why? Because basically there are two kinds of measurements: categorical measurement or non-metric measurement, also we say, and a continuous measurement or metric measurement. So whenever we have to decide on a statistical test, the first thing that we see is what kind of measurement we have taken. It is not at our whims and fancies that we decide on a statistical test by on our own, because statistics is a science, and science has few steps that needs to be taken care of. So the measurement and then the assumptions. Assumptions are drawn. The assumptions of statistics are drawn from these measurements itself. As I said, there are two kinds of measurements: the categorical and the continuous, also known as non-metric and metric. And again, these categorical measurements are divided into two, that is nominal and ordinal, whereas continuous or metric are divided into two, that is interval and ratio. So if you are taking data on a nominal measurement or a ordinal measurement, then that is a categorical measurement. And on a categorical measurement, we should never try to do any statistical calculation that computes the mean. That mean cannot be computed on nominal or ordinal variables or categorical variables. And most often, the parametric test like t-test, ANOVA, correlations, all these are based on the mean and standard deviations. So if you are taking a nominal or the ordinal measurement, then you should avoid using these tests. So most of us we use Likert scale for data collection. If you see Likert in its basic essence, that is ordinal in nature. Only five data points you have from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And this 5 point scale is ordinal because the difference between strongly agree and agree or strongly disagree and disagree is not known. Only we rank order them. Unless you assign some weight to these values, that 1 means 10, 2 means 20, like that, or you extend this scale to a 7 point or 9 point or something like that, or you submit this scores from the data taken on the Likert scale, then only it will convert into a metric variable or continuous variable. Otherwise, it will remain ordinal, which is categorical in nature. So nominal scale is only used for, I think somebody is trying to join. So nominal scale is basically used for identification purpose, like gender, male, female, or roll number of the students, or user, non-user, like this. If you just if your intention is just to identify, then for identification purpose we use this nominal variable or nominal measurement. When we rank order them, like good, better, best, something like this, or low, if you are dividing income like low income group, middle income group, high income group, then it is ordinal variable. And why it is ordinal? You are simply ranking without knowing what is the difference between them and whether this difference is equal. Like if low income group, middle income group, and high income group, are their differences equal? If this is not the case, then this rank order is ordinal variable. That's why I said Likert scale in its basic form is a ordinal variable. Now, coming to the continuous variable or metric variable, that is the interval variable. When the differences between the data points are equal, then it is a interval variable, which is one form of metric variable. Like year of birth you are taking temperature on a scale, or you are measuring some length on a meter scale, where each data point is at equal distances. That is the interval variable. And ratio variable are the absolute values like age, body mass index, height, where even decimal values have some value. Decimal points even have some values. So I'll give you one example. Let's say there are three athletes or three people who are participating in a race. They have their own jersey number, let's say 1, 2, 3. This is only for their identification purpose. You cannot compute mean or something on this. So for identification purpose, player number one, player number or racer number one, racer number two, racer number three. This is only for their identification purpose. This is the nominal measurement. Now I'm saying that racer number one is a good racer, number two is better, and number three is the best. I don't have any solid evidence to prove this. Only I'm ranking them. Ranking them for my own understanding, but the distance between them or the difference between them is not more. Is good, whatever we are seeing, good, better, best, is the difference between good and better the same as difference between the better and best? We don't have a solid evidence of this. So this is the ordinal measurement. Now to bring in more clarity, I said that number one is a good player because he in the race he got the third rank. Player number two is better because he got the second rank or he came second in the race. Number three is the best because he won the race. He came first. Now I have placed them into a proper order, logical order. And the difference between becoming first, second, and second to third is the same. So in that case, I'll say that this is the interval measurement. Now, to bring in more clarity, I said how they came first, second, third, because the person who came third completed the race in 9 minutes 30 seconds. The person who came second, he won the race, he completed the race in 9 minutes 28 seconds. And the person who came first, he completed the race in 9 minutes and 25 seconds. Here you can see when the difference of 0.02 or 0.03 makes sense. That's why we say it is an absolute value or ratio variable. And the difference between the interval and the ratio variable is of arbitrary zero and absolute zero. In interval scale, the value of zero is arbitrary. Means if there is a zero value, that doesn't means exactly there is no value at all. Like if I say the room in which I'm sitting, its temperature is 0 degrees centigrade, that doesn't means that there is no temperature at all. Because if there is no temperature at all, I could not survive. There is some temperature, but since it is not measurable on a degree centigrade scale or something, we are saying it's 0 degrees centigrade. But when we are saying this 0 degrees centigrade on a ratio scale, it is absolute zero. Means zero means zero, no temperature at all. So in ratio variable, even if you are getting values 0.0001 or 0.002, 0.00003, even that has some value that makes sense. In interval, that doesn't make any sense. So the only difference is of the arbitrary zero and absolute zero. So this is the basic thing about the nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. So nominal, ordinal divided into categorical, and metric and interval and ratio categorized as metric. How it makes a difference to our statistical test? Because categorical variables don't follow a normal distribution. And as you might be knowing, if any of the data is not following a normal distribution, you cannot apply a parametric test on it. So before jumping on to the statistical analysis, first see that what kind of measurement you have taken. So if you have taken only categorical measurement, either nominal or ordinal, only thing that you can calculate is the frequency. That's it. But when it comes to interval variable and ratio variable, which are continuous in nature, you can apply all the statistical tests that you want, provided you further check the assumptions of normality, homogeneity, linearity, and all these things. But if your data or the measurement is taken on a nominal or ordinal scale, there is no point in measuring these assumptions of linearity, normality, or homostaticity. No point. So don't waste your time on that because your data is taken on a categorical scale, categorical measurement will not be normally distributed because again the normal distribution depends on the mean. You might be knowing that mu minus, it ranges from mu minus 2 standard deviation to mu plus 2 standard deviation. And since nominal and ordinal variable on nominal and ordinal mean cannot be calculated, so data cannot follow the normal distribution. It will be skewed. Mean cannot be computed, and parametric tests like t-test, ANOVA, and further the correlations, all these are based on the mean values. So let's say if you have taken a Likert scale, let's say you want to measure people's likeliness towards visiting a restaurant. So you have asked few questions about the food is tasty, the restaurant ambience is good, the restaurant is pocket friendly, and you ask the questions on a 5 point Likert scale. Strongly disagree to strongly agree. Here you have measured people's response towards pocket friendliness, people's response towards the ambience, people's response towards the food quality. Nowhere you are directly measuring people's likeliness to towards a restaurant, how much they like the restaurant. Now these three questions, they are the indicators of three different dimensions. The moment you want to measure the people likeliness, that score will come from the summated score of these three questions, three statements. You will take a summated score, and that score will now become a ratio variable or an interval. So if you are treating each Likert scaled questions individually, that is ordinal in nature. Either you extend the scale or assign weight or summate these scores. Because normally when we make questionnaires, we put 5, 10 questions in one group, 5, 10 questions in another group. Actually, the responses that we are getting of the individual questions, not the dimension that we want to measure. So for that, we need to submit the score, and then we will be able to convert it into interval or ratio variable, which is the metric variable. And then we can test for the assumptions of linearity, homogeneity. And if these are followed, then we can proceed towards using either t-test, ANOVA, regression, correlation, whatever we want. So these things are essential because these measurement is the building block. And measurement is nothing, it's assigning a numeric value. When you put these numeric values, so all whatever I'm talking about, the nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio, these are measurements or variables. And to wrap up, I'll say the first two, that is nominal and ordinal, are categorical and does not support any statistical test based on mean or standard deviation, whereas interval and ratio variable are metric variables or continuous variables, and they are they support almost all type of statistical test, provided the assumptions of a particular statistical test is met or fulfilled. So when you are assigning these values, it is the measurement that you are taking. When you are putting these values in a logical order or in a continuum, that is known as scaling. And scaling is again of two types, comparative and non-comparative. So often I have seen people comparing two organizations, comparing two products, comparing employee work-life balance in two different organizations. So when you are doing comparison, while you are taking data on a Likert scale, or Likert scale is a kind of non-comparative scale. So when you are doing comparisons, then please use a comparative scale, which is again divided into four types: a paired comparison scale, a rank order scale, constant sum scale, and Q-short. In paired comparison scale, we keep two products or two organizations side by side and ask people to compare them like this. There are four type of cold drinks: Coke, Pepsi, Sprite, and Limca, and we ask people preference, that you give your preference, and then we calculate which one of them was preferred most. So this is one kind of paired comparison scale. In rank order, we will put these products and ask people to rank them as per their preferences. In constant sum, we ask them to assign to the attributes of the product or attributes of anything that you want. If you are doing a study on human resources, let's say work-life balance, so employee motivation, then for measuring work-life balance, how much the organization is giving flexibility at work, all these things, all these attributes of the organization, you will ask people to give marks out of 100 or scores out of 100. The total score will be 100. And from this, you will come to know what is most important and what is the least important. Now, Q sort and other procedures. One example I'll give, that suppose you are given images of 90 magazines and you have to choose 10 magazines that you prefer most, 20 magazines that you like, 30 magazines that you are neutral about, 20 magazines that you dislike, and 10 magazines you prefer least. You have to put them into buckets of prefer most, like, neutral, dislike, prefer least. Now, don't confuse this scale with Likert scale. Likert scale is used to measure attitudes, and that has the data points like strongly disagree to strongly agree. If you are changing this agreement to preference or satisfaction, not at all satisfied to highly satisfied and all these kind of thing, please don't treat it as a Likert scale. It is a kind of too short scale, which is a comparative skill. Now coming to the non-comparative skills, when you don't want to compare, you want to study individual variable. You don't want to compare two products or two organizations or two different positions within the same organization. You want to measure their perceptions, attitude individually. Then you can use non-comparative skill. Again, it is a continuous rating scale. Continuous rating scale means there is a continuity in rating, there is no neutral point in between. And another one is itemized rating scale. The most often used is the Likert scale, having a neutral point in between. A semantic differential scale, where we put emojis or emotions for the people to understand. And a stepple scale, ranging from -5, then having 0 point, then sorry, there is no midpoint, no 0 point, so -5 to -1, showing the negative aspect, and +1 to +5, showing the positive aspect. So if you want to measure any dimension individually, then of course you can go for the non-competitive scale. And when you want to compare, if somebody is leaving and joining in between, then you should use. So if you want to measure side by side two things, two or three things you want to compare, you can use any of the comparative scale based on what you want to measure. And if your objective is to measure every variable individually, or you want to do some cross-sectional study, then you can go for a non-comparative scale. It can be a continuous scale or itemized rating scale. So this is the basic thing about measurement and scale. Now let's see how to do all these things in Zamovi. So you can open this Jamovi software, and initially it will look like this. Please confirm me once you have opened this software. And also I have sent you a PDF file containing a questionnaire, SAQ questionnaire. So this is a set of 23 questions. This questionnaire is known as SPSS Anxiety Questionnaire and containing 23 items. As of now, they have not been categorized along with their main factors or main variables. Only individual questions we have kept, and all are measured on a scale of 1 to 5. That is the Likert scale. Strongly disagree to strongly agree. So, two or three of these statements we will put in the Jamovi to help you understand how do we create variables in Jamovi, like we do in SPSS. So, just confirm me once you have opened this software. I have already shared the link to download and install the software. Have you people opened it? Is it open? I want you to do along with me. Yes, participants, I'm waiting for your response.
Yes, sir. Opens a movie.
Okay. Now, initially it will look like this. So by default, there are three variables created. You can remove them by right click and delete variable because we will create our own variable. Now this is clean. The best part of Jamovi is that this window that you are seeing, actually this window, while you are doing the analysis side by side, it gives you the output. So if something wrong has happened, you will come to know where you went wrong. Because in other softwares like IBM SPSS or even in Excel or R or Python or whatever you are using, uh, once you run the command, then only the output you can go and see the output. Here, side by side, you can see the output. So let's create our variable. So let me say that this is my first question. So I will create a new variable. So simply you can right click. You can go here on the variables and click on add data variable. Just a minute. Data variable. Well, okay, what you can do that rather than deleting that, actually that is the basic variable. So it won't take a new row because we have deleted them. So simply you can do that again. You can open this. It takes little bit of time to open. So here you can just double click on the first variable and rename it. Don't delete it, rather than rename it. We are naming it as question number one. And description, in description, whatever you want to be printed in the output, that you can put in the description. Normally we put our entire question or statement in the description. Now what kind of measurement it is? So we have taken it on a 5-point Likert scale. So basically it's a ordinal measurement. So here ordinal, and values, since it is numeric numbers, so you can put decimal. Missing values, if you have missing values, you can add, or otherwise, if you are expecting missing value, then add missing values. Let's say if you in SPSS we put 9 as missing values. So anything which is missing or the data is missing will be like 9. So if you don't want to do that, leave it. So here question number one created. Now here question number question number two. Again description, and it is a ordinal in nature, decimal. Similarly, this one, question number three, copy, paste this, ordinal, decimal. Now here you can now right click and add a new variable. New variable, we want data variable. So new data variable, you can click and edit from here. So question number 4, again description is this, copy and paste simply. It is again ordinal. So here you will find nominal, ordinal, and continuous. Means if it is continuous, means simply it is either uh, interval measurement or a ratio measurement. Otherwise, if you are taking ordinal data, then you have to specify ordinal. If you are taking nominal data, then you have to specify nominal. I think this one was taken as continuous. No, it is ordinal. This one is also ordinal. And this one is also ordinal. At any stage, you can edit it. This is in the form of decimal. So the moment you will put decimal, it will take it as continuous. So leave it as integer as of now, because it's a ordinal data, ordinal, integer, ordinal, integer, ordinal, integer. Now, if you want to add here new data variable, again new data variable, edit this, question number 5. B, ordinal, integer. Now, like this, you can create your variables and you can start putting the values. Let's say respondent number 1 has responded 5 on this, so we'll enter 5. So, like in SPSS, you have a separate variable view and data view. Here it is not the case. From here only you can add the variables and your work will be done. So simply if it is a data variable, append. It will take the F. Now just click it and change from here. Question number 6. You can type the description or copy and paste from your questionnaire. Select the type of measurement and by default keep it integer. If you are taking it as continuous measurement, then you please keep it as decimal. So like this, it will work. And here you can input your data. So this is respondent number 1 response on these questions. Let's say. So like this, you create a variable in Jamovi. So let's see what our data looks like in Jamovi. So first let me clear off all these so that I can create a new data. So I'm deleting all this at once. Delete variables. Yes. So I want to have a new file over here. So and first I'll tell you how to take a random samples using Zamovi. Like we have to do random sampling, and normally in random sampling, what happens that it is also known as lottery method. So we make, let's say we have 300 people, we want 20% out of it randomly. So we will make a slip of those people, 300 people, put it in a box, and 20% of it will be 60. So I will pick randomly any 60. But for 300 samples or 400, 500, it's not an easy task. So here software can help you. So let's do this by opening a new file. Now here, if you will click on open, so this will only open the file of types OMV, which is by default the Jamovi file. If you have to open files like, and that's the good part of Jamovi, that it supports SPSS data file also, Excel file also, CSV file also, and also files from other softwares like Stata uh, and this MATLAB, all these things it supports. But rather than open, you have to go for import. If it's a OMV file, means a file which have been created in Jamovi, like we have created our variables. If you save it, it will be it will be saved as OMV file. Then that can be opened. But if you have to open a file in other format, then you have to click on import. And here you will be getting this option of browse. Are you getting this? Are you getting this
Yes, sir.
option, bro? So click on this browse and you can browse through the data. And I have given you a data set today. uh, that is named as random sampling.xlx. Do you have this? Have you downloaded all these files, data files? Is this file available with you?
Yes, sir.
So click on this file and open it. Now see this file with your variable name, and automatically it has also read that what kind of measurement it is. So this is a serial number. But if you click on it, since these are absolute numbers, so it has taken it as a continuous. So you can put it as ID or just for ID, you can click it. This is the roll number, automatically it has taken it as ID again. So we are concerned with only this column. Let's say this is 361, roll number of 361 students. Randomly, I want to pick 30% of it. So if I have to pick 30%, how many of them I have to remove, means not select? 70%, isn't it? So I want to pick 30% out of this population randomly. So what I do, there is no direct method over here. You have to go to edit, and from uh, are you there with me? Is this file open with you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There should be option of applying filter here. Data. Select on data and click on filters. Now here you have to write one command, unif function less than 0.7. This means, oh sorry, less than 0.3. So you want to take 30%. So you click this, click on enter. And if you see, randomly it has taken 30%. Those who are crossed, they will not be computed into the system. It has done this thing randomly. And if you want to see how many of them have been selected, simply you can go to the analysis, exploration, descriptives, and select this roll number. And see, side by side, see it is giving the output. It has taken 116. And if you calculate the 30% of 361, what number we are getting it? It calculates approximately, keep in mind. So 361 into 30 divided by. So now ideally 109 it has to take. So 30% means roughly it will take approximate values. So 116 have been taken randomly. So whenever you will do any computation, this computation will be done on only these 116 rather than 361. So you can select the variables, you can choose a random sample, you can take a random sample out of your population. Let's say you have a population of 1,000, you want to take 20% or 30% of it. Simply you can go to the data. Here, let's say if I want to increase this, I want to take 50% of this population. So only you have to write is equal to unif and less than 0.5. That's it. Now you will see that it has taken 50, approximately 50%, 182. So that will be close to 50% of 361. So like this you can take, and randomly it has picked. If you see, if you apply this filter, you can see that randomly it has, those who have been crossed, they are not selected. Those who have been ticked have been selected. So randomly it has taken. Now this time it has taken 173. So roughly it will take close to the 50% or whatever the percentage you are specifying, but it will take them randomly, not in a order. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, second thing is data coding. Also, first let me remove this filter, close it, all have been selected. Now let's say I have taken these ages of these students. Can you see this number, age? But the only problem is, let me first convert it into, this is age and it is the absolute value, so continuous. Okay. Now I have, let's say in my questionnaire, I have asked a simple question, what is your age? Everybody has told their age in absolute numbers. Later on, I decided that I need to convert these ages or these continuous variables into categorical variables. Like I want to say 20 to 25 means age category 1, 25 or 26 to 30 is age category 2. So one way that all which are having 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25, I keep on changing them to 1. Then all between 26 to 30, I keep on changing them to 2. Again, it is a tough task, time consuming task. So we can do it at once. And how we can do it? So simply, if you want to convert the absolute values into categorical values, then you can do this kind of transformation in Jamovi. SPSS also option provides you this option. Here also you can do. So what you can do, you can click on this transform. Select this variable and click on transform. Right? It will create another variable side by side, which will be the transformation. So let's, rather than age 2, let's put it as underscore category. Age category we want to create, and we want to put all 20 to 25 into one category and record them as one. 26 to 30 record them as two, something like this we want to do. So here you have to click on create new transform, and here in the command you have to give if source is less than 25, because 20 to 25 we are taking as one. So variable age category we are taking, add record condition here. If source is, now here add record condition is less than 25, use here 1. So the first report condition. Then, if less than or equal to 30, here you can see less than equal to less than and equal to 30, use 2. Here else option you don't have to use, so leave it. Then give the third if source is less than or equal to 35, use 3 inputs. Add one more condition. If it is less than or equal to 40, use 4. You can assign names also. Low age, young age, middle age, like this. And hit enter. You can see all those who were between 20 to 25 have been coded as 1. All those between 30 to 25 to 30 has been coded as 2. All those between 30 to 35 have been coded as 3. Since we have not specified above 40, so it is 42. So again, we will add one more, is less than or equal to 45, use 5. Enter. So you can see, similarly for all others, you can do such kind of computations. And now side by side, you are having the ages also, and you are also having the, if you want them into categories, want to convert a categorical variables, a continuous variable into categorical, then you can do like this. Now, all between 20 to 25 have been coded as 1, between 25 to 30 have been coded as 2, between 30 to 35 has been coded as 3, between 35 to 40 has been coded as 4, between 40 to 45 have been coded as 5, like this. You can see here. Similarly, you can decide that whether you want to keep the category of class interval having 5 or 10, let's say 25, 20 to 30, you want to keep it as 1, then you can specify here. So like this, you can recode it. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
If any query you have, you can ask. And if you want to close this page, simply click on this. It will be closed and your data set is available. So if you want to convert a categorical variable into continuous variable, a continuous variable into categorical variable, this kind of imputation you can do. Or you can put them into numbers also. If you want to categorize them in, rather than numbers, if you want to categorize them, now here transform 1, you will select the first transformation. And if you want to do the same thing on some other variable, then you can select uh, this rule. So here, let's say if I want to keep them as youngsters, I want to keep them as, let's say, um, elderly, let's say middle aged. That also can be done. You can see that now this transformation also has been done. So if you want to convert any continuous variable at the later stage, you need not to do for each and every variable. You just specify the range, and here you can either categorize, label them in numeric form, or you can label them in alphanumeric form or into the statements or labels, alphabetical labels. So you can do this. Now, second thing transformation that we do is recoding. Let's say you have made a questionnaire. In that questionnaire, you want to do reverse coding of few of any of the variable. Like you are measuring some positive dimensions, but one or two of the variable are measuring negative dimension. So if you are saying one as strongly disagree and five as strongly agree, here in this case, one will become strongly agree and five will become strongly disagree. If you want to do this reverse coding, then also you can do in one click. So for that, just I would like to delete all this and open a new data file. Delete variables. Okay. So I will open a new data file and let's say I'm opening this saq.sav, SPSS file. It can support any kind of files. So all those questions and their responses we have. So this is in this form. So to convert them, first you have to select all these. These were the 23 questions and the responses we have got. So we have selected all. And from data, we can do one thing. Or from here only, you can, okay, individually you have to do. Here rather than integers select decimals. Otherwise, it is showing you the label also. What does 1, 2, 3 means? But if you want them in numbers, then you have to put it in decimals. Otherwise, it will be alphanumeric. Let's say this is question number 3, and I want this to be reverse coded. Reverse coded means what is 1 should become 5, what is 2 should become 4, 3 will be the neutral point, so it will remain as 3. What is 4 should become 2, and what is 5 should become 1. This is the reverse coding that we do. So for that, you can do in one single command. You can go to transform, and I want to do it on this question. Click on transform, and here create new transform, because transform 1 was about putting them into categories. So I will create a new transform, and here I will put a command. Simply, there are 5 variables, means there are 5 responses. If you have to reverse code, just take one more, that is 6 is equal to 6 minus dollar source, enter it. Now you can see here, this is the reverse coded of this one, side by side. What was 4 became 2, what was 2 became 4, what was 1 became 5, 3 will remain as neutral, what was 4 was 2, what is 1 became 5. So we have reverse coded it. So here now strongly disagree became strongly agree if you want to see. So simply you can click on this, and here you take it as integer. Oh, already we have deleted that. That's why. So this is question number 3 transformed. So you can see that the values have got transformed, means the reverse coding we have done. So if you want to reverse code any response, side by side, you can create a new transformation and do the reverse coding. Another thing that you can do in data editing is replacing missing values. So first, I am deleting this recorded values. So the moment you will select any variable and record it, the recorded value will be created as a new variable just next to the variable that you are recording. So let's say I want to replace some missing values. So this data is clean, there is no missing values. What happens? How come you get the missing values? Missing values might occur due to two reasons. One is that the respondent has not responded to that particular question, or he or she has responded, but you accidentally missed it, you were unable to fill it. Now, if you had the questionnaire with you, then of course you can go back to that questionnaire and see that what they have responded to a particular question. Let's say respondent number 21. On this question number 2, he has not responded. Let's delete it. Then let's say on this also he has not responded. Then respondent number 26 on question number 3 has not responded. Or we failed to on this question also has not responded. Now this entire data set is of approximately 257 respondents and 23 questions. So you cannot scroll through each of the responses and see whether it's missing or not. Because what will happen is missing values will affect your mean value. So you have to replace this, identify these missing values and replace them. This is known as mean imputation or data imputation. So first step is the identification. So if I ask you to identify which of the values is missing, then again it is a problem that you will scroll through all the responses. Now this is having 2,571 responses. You cannot scroll through all. So you can use the descriptives over here. In the analysis, go to the exploration and descriptives. And here select your question. Let's say question number 1, 2, 3, 4. And here you will get the tables. So now question number 1, if you see no missing values, 2, there are 2 missing values. Question number 3 also has 2 missing values. Question number 4 also has 2 missing values. So now we have identified that these are the missing values. Again, which value is missing? Again, you have to scroll. No need to do that. Now, how to replace these missing values? Now, if you have the questionnaire with you, and suppose respondent has responded, you actually missed the entry, then you can go back to that respondent responses or questionnaire and fill it. But what if the respondent has not responded? And if 1 or 2 cases are there, fine, you can drop them. But if many cases are there, then what to do? Can you go back to that respondent and ask them? That won't work out. So what we do in such cases, we replace these values with the overall mean value, so that the data is somewhere close to the mean. And that can be done by another command in the data itself, you can go to transform, and here let's say question number 3. In 2 and 3 it was missing, so first we will take question number 2. Question number 1 there was nothing missing, if you see here. So 2, 3 and 4. So we need to replace missing values in 2, 3 and 4. So question number 2, where has the data gone? Yeah. Third. Okay. So go to transform, and in this same variable, so delete this and create a new transform. And here you have to type add a record condition. Here you have to give a variable suffix. What will be what you want before that variable? I have to take this second one. Okay. And I have to transform. Rather than this, I want create new transform, and I am naming this transformation as mean imputation. Imputation. And here variable suffix, let's say I want to put it as missing. Yes, we have replaced the missing values just for our identification. And now I'll add a reports situation. If source is equal to double is equal to A, means missing values, then use V mean of the source, means that variable dollar source. Dollar source. And roll this. Else use source, dollar source. What you are telling the software to do? If somewhere in the source, that is your variable, is NA, means missing, then use the replace it with the overall mean of the source. Else, if there is no missing value, then use dollar source. Hit enter, and you can see now this is a new imputation, new variable created. Okay, and if you want to check, this is for the question number 2. If you want to check whether now there is any missing value, so you can go to analyze, exploration, descriptives, and here this question number 2 mean imputed we have created, and see there is no missing values. Previously there were missing values, now we have imputed it. Now it is, you can see here it was 2 values were missing, now none of them is missing. We have changed it. Similarly, if you want to do it for the third one, let's say third variable, this was the third variable, question 3. Again 2 were missing, so transform, use this new transform, mean imputation, same you can use. Okay. And since already I have created one command, so I need not to do it again. So again, enter, and you can see that for question number 3 also mean has been, this mean imputation has been done. Now if you see for this one, exploration descriptives for the third one. So this third MI, third two, I think. If you see the missing values, no, it might have been transformed somewhere else, transformed. We have to rename it here. For question number, this is fourth. For third, 3, 2, let's say mean imputation, here edit, and this MI. Yes, okay, enter. This is question number 3, MI2. Now, if you check this one, 3 MI2, yes. Now, no missing value there also. So, once you have created the command for replacing the missing values for one variable, you need not to write the code again. You can use it for other variables also. Let's say if I want to use it for question number 4. So if you see question number 4 also few were missing. So I'll take this question number 4. Okay, this is question number 4. Which one is this? Question number 4. Yes, 4th we have missing. Now, if I want to transform, again I will use the transform mean imputation already that I have created. And in editing, this MI will be there. Enter. And if you see this question number 4 also, exploration descriptives, new variable will be created, question number 4 MI, because we have given this command. And if you see again, no missing values. So by this we replace the missing values. Is this clear, or do I need to repeat this step? Yes, participants. Is this process clear, or do I need to repeat it?
Sir, it is clear.
So you have to create once, and then you can, and from here, this is the variable view. If you want to edit something, you can edit from here, rename it, recode it, whatever you want, you can do it. Now, next step, once you have identified the missing values, you have replaced the missing values. Now, next step is to do two important tests. Number one is test of normality, whether your data is normally distributed or not. So that is done by Shapiro-Wilk test. So first we will delete all this and create a new variable. We will open a new file, because in this only if you import a new file, it will be imported side by side. So first you remove this or close this software and open it again. So one thing you can do, you can select all and delete. Now this is clear. And open another file, import this file normally. So if you see at this variable, it is serum protein in picogram per ml of blood. If you see to this data, this seems to be absolute values. So this is a metric data. If it is a categorical data, then there is no point in testing normality. It won't be normally distributed. So don't waste your time on that. But if your data is a metric measurement or continuous measurement, means taken either on a ratio scale or interval scale. Here it is a ratio scale, then you should check for its normality. Normality test we do through Shapiro-Wilk test, and for the data to be normally distributed, please remember one thing. For a null hypothesis to be rejected, p should be less than 0.05. But for any assumption to be coming to be true, p value should be greater than 0.05 or it should be non-significant. So let's see what we are getting. So again, you can go to the analysis, exploration, descriptives, select this variable, and here select statistics. And here you will find the test for normality, Shapiro-Wilk. This you can do. In plots also you will find histogram. You can create histogram also to check whether there is normality or not. You can create QQ plots also, quartile plots. All these are indicators of normality. So let's see here when we have taken Shapiro. That's the beauty of this software, that the moment you select an option, you need not to run and wait for the output. Output will be generated. And you can simply copy this and paste it in MS Word. All the outputs you can paste directly in MS Word, like you do in SPSS. But it gives you many options side by side to compute. Simply you can copy and paste. Just a minute. So all those outputs that I got, you can paste it here. Or you can export them also as a PDF. Export them as PDF also. That option is also there. So now if you see this Shapiro-Wilk value, p value, it is coming to be 0.581, greater than 0.05. So data is normally distributed. If you want to see it through visualization, if you see this curve, it is more or less normally distributed. It follows a normal distribution. If you draw a curve, it will be somewhere close to the bell curve. Now, if you plot a density plot over this, so somewhere you can find little bit of skewness is there, otherwise it's normally distributed. And that is actually reported by here, Shapiro-Wilk also. But if you want to give more visualization, you can do it. Normal QQ plots, quantile plots also tells you about the normality, but basically we use in the case of regression when we want to test the normality of residuals. Otherwise, if these data points are close to this line, this this vertical, this diagonal line, and they are in symmetry, the upper and the lower symmetry are almost similar, then you say that the data is normally distributed. However, through visualizations, it might be that you might miss out a little bit of skewness is there. So better you see this value, Shapiro will, and this value should be greater than 0.05 for any of the assumptions, be it normality, be it homogeneity or homoscedasticity. Your data, I mean, the p-value should be greater than 0.05, means it should be non-significant. Then only you can say that the assumption is met. Second assumption is the homoscedasticity or homogeneity of variances. Just a minute, please. Now, homogeneity of variance. First, let me explain what is the concept of homogeneity. So, I was telling you the importance of this measurements and this normality that helps us to take decision on which test to apply. Let's say I have one dependent variable and one independent variable, and independent variable is again divided into two categories. And these two categories are not related to each other, like male and female. I want to test, let's say, serum protein among male and females. So males have different characteristics, females have different characteristics. They are mutually exclusive of each other. Then I'll see that whether the data that I have taken is continuous or categorical. If it is categorical, this is how we make a decision tree. If it is categorical, then no need of testing for any assumption directly. We will move on to the non-parametric test because this makes it an ideal case of independent t-test because we have the variable, our independent variable divided into two categories coming from two different populations. And these two populations are mutually exclusive of each other. So this will become the case of independent t-test to test whether there is some significant difference between the males and females when it comes to their to their blood serum. Or I want to test preference of male and female towards a particular product. Again, male and female, let's say perfumes. Male and females preference towards perfumes differ. But if you want to support it by data, we have collected some data. Since we have two mutually exclusive groups, so this makes it a case of independent sample and independent t-test can be applied to test the significant difference. But again, we won't jump to independent t-test directly. First, we will see that whether data is categorical or continuous. If it is categorical data, then of course it won't follow any of the assumptions. So directly we will move on to the non-parametric equivalent of the independent t-test, which is manual u-test. However, if the data is metric, then we will check whether it is normally distributed or not. If it is normally distributed, then we will proceed to the next step, that is homogeneity of variance. If that is also fulfilled, then only we can apply independent t-test. If at any stage any of these is violated, any of the assumptions, let's say if it is not normally distributed, no further testing of assumptions, directly move on to the non-parametric equivalent. If it is normally distributed, since coming from two different populations, you will test for homogeneity of variance. Means the preference that you are trying to measure, whether it is bringing equal changes in both the groups or not. If it is not bringing any change in the other group, means no variation is there in these among the females, let's say, then there is no point in testing the significant difference. It should be equally distributed or equal changes should happen between both the groups. This is the case of homogeneity, and that is checked through Levin's test of homogeneity of variance in case of univariate analysis when you have only one dependent variable. In case of multivariate analysis, we test it through Bartlett's test of homogeneity or homoscedasticity. So as of now, we are taking a case of univariate statistics. So This is the normality, the bell-shaped curve. Now this is the homogeneity of variance. So let's say we have two populations, let's say male and female. If you see the distribution or the variance here, this one is short and steep, this one is long. So if you see the difference is not equal in both. So we will say that this is a case of there is no homogeneity of variance. This curve or this change should happen equally between the two populations, two different populations. So whenever you have two different populations, two or more populations, you have to check for homogeneity of variance or homoscedasticity. In the same way, in case of multiple regression, since you have many variables affecting the dependent variable, so you have to check there also that whether they all are able to explain the dependent variable or not. And that you will come to know through homoscedasticity or homogeneity of variance. That is done through Lemming's test. So let's do it. So again, you just click on this and you will come back to your data. Let's open a new data. I am deleting this variable and import new data, that is homogeneity.xlx. The same variable we have taken. So already these commands were given, so it is taking all these commands. Forget about it. Or if you want to remove all these results, simply you can right click and here select all. If you want to clean this, remove. Now it is clean. So this is the serum protein, the same serum protein that we have taken. Now we have calculated between male and females. And we want to check whether there is a significant difference between the serum protein of male and female or not. So for this, we will apply dependent t-test, but before that, we want to know whether there is a normality. We have already checked whether we have a homogeneity of variance or not. The beauty of this software is that whenever you apply do any statistical test, side by side, it also gives you the option to test its assumption. So this makes it a case of independent t-test. So let's see here in t-test, independent sample t-test, you will get, and you select your serum protein and this as factor where 1 is equal to male, 2 is equal to female. And here it will give you the option of homogeneity test and normality test also you can do. So if you see the normality test, 0.975 means P is greater than 0.05, so data is normally distributed. If you see the homogeneity of variance test, 0.161, again it is greater than 0.05. So both the assumptions, normality and homogeneity of variance, is fulfilled. So you can apply independent t-test over here. That's the best part of this software, because if you have to do this in SPSS, first you have to check the assumptions. If assumptions are met, then you move forward to apply the test. Here, when you are selecting the test side by side, it is giving you the option to check for its assumptions also. So normality and homogeneity both both assumptions are fulfilled. So it's good to go for independent t-test. If they are not fulfilled, then this value is not correct. You should not apply independent t-test. Rather, you should apply its non-parametric equivalent. And here it is also giving you side by side option. If your data is not following assumption, then rather than going for independent t-test, select man-Whitney U test. Since our data is not following normal distribution, so we have done independent t-test, but you can do man-Whitney test also. And if you can see here also in man-Whitney test, if you have performed, you are getting the value of P less than 0.05, means there exists a significant difference. Otherwise, you can do by default independent t-test. So on the same command, that is the beauty of this software, that within the same command you are getting an option to check the assumptions side by side. And if assumptions are not fulfilled, then also you have the option to go for its non-parametric equivalent also. And if you want to check the effect size, I'll come to the effect size. I'll explain about it when I will be explaining the statistical test, what is the effect size. All these things you can do at once rather than going step by step. Now, whatever we have done, let's say you want the R codes for it. So select on these three dots and here click syntax mode. And here you will get before every output what is the R code that is involved in this. For this output, you will find all R codes over here. These are the R codes which you can utilize for if you want to do some analysis in R. Simply copy and paste this and use the data set that you are using. So R codes also you will get side by side if you want to report that you have done something in R. So in the background of this software runs the R. So today we are done with measurement and scaling, how to impute the data, how to replace the missing values, how to check for the basic assumptions, normality, and homogeneity. And then when we will be doing other statistical test, then we will be discussing about assumptions of each test and every test of that is the best part of this software, that first it gives you output side by side. If you don't want these R codes, simply just disable this syntax mode, you'll get the output. Side by side, you get the output, and you also get the option to perform non-parametric test if assumptions are not fulfilled. You can check for the assumptions also side by side. This is the hypothesis that is suggested. So it is saying that group 1 is not equal to group 2. You want to test this hypothesis, means there exists a significant difference between both the groups. You want to check this, or if you want to check group 1 is greater than group 2, then also it will give you the results. Okay, and what it will also tell you what hypothesis you can frame. For independent t-test, you can make any of these three hypotheses, right? Directional, non-directional, both. And you can test the assumptions, you can make the plots, everything in one single command. So that is the best part of this software. When we will be doing other statistical test, we will be testing the assumptions also side by side and what other options are available. Like here, Mann-Whitney is already available. If your data is not following this normal distribution, you need not to go back, select the variable again, and select Mann-Whitney test. From here directly, you can click and select Mann-Whitney test. So similarly, for other type of calculations, you can do like this. So homogeneity of variance, normality, all can be checked in one go. While you are doing the statistical test, side by side, you can do assumptions test also. So this was all for today. If you have any questions,